Welcome to another edition of the Watchful Citizen, a local cable access program brought to you by the Lancaster County Democratic Party. My name is Benny Shobe, I'm your host, and I'm excited to have in studio today Mary Harding, a current member of the Nebraska Public Power District and candidate for election to a new district, re-election. I'm going to ask Mary those questions and a couple of more. Mary, thanks for joining us today.
It's great to be here, Benny. Thanks for having me.
As you can understand from the opening, I'm still a little confused. Let's start with what is the NPPD, which is what I commonly hear.
That's right. NPPD stands for Nebraska Public Power District.
Okay.
As you know, Nebraska is a 100% public power state.
I did not know that.
We're the only state in the union that is 100% public power.
I did not know that. I assumed it was all a public-private mix.
No, it's all public. It's guaranteed under a constitutional provision. And the state is divided into a variety of delivery mechanisms. So NPPD is the state's largest generating and transmission electric utility. We serve 91 out of 93 counties, mostly at wholesale.
Well, let's back up again, slow down. 91 out of 93 of the counties are served just by the NPPD?
Parts of them are,
okay.
Yes.
As I hear things like MUD and OPPD and
LES
and EIEIO and all kinds of other acronyms.
Absolutely.
So I'm really confused by all the lettered acronyms. But so a majority of Nebraskans get their electrical power from NPPD?
Yes, that's right. That's right. So, but mostly at wholesale. So in a lot of cases, you won't write your utility bill to NPPD.
No.
You write your check to Lincoln Electric System.
Living here in Lancaster County, that's what I do, yes.
Yeah, Norris Public Power District is another delivery utility that buys their power from NPPD.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
So you're a public utility,
Mm-hmm.
and you sit on the board of that public utility,
Right.
representing me, the public.
Absolutely.
How many board members are on the I'm just going to say NPPD now. It's much
That's
easier.
fine.
How many board members are on the board?
There are 11 board members. We're elected for 6-year terms. So 3 or 4 of us are elected every 2 years.
Okay. So it's a 2-year cycle. Two board members from someplace. Next year, 2 different ones will come up.
Exactly.
Their term will expire, and they get either reelected or
Somebody new.
someone new.
Which is what this is all about this year.
This is an election cycle for you, and you are a candidate for your district. I'm confused on the district number.
Everybody's confused on the district around here because it was redrawn after the last census in 2010.
Yes.
And not only was it reelected, but they changed the law about what territory can be included with representation on the board.
Okay.
So it used to be Lancaster County had 2 board members.
Okay.
And it served the whole county. If you're from Lincoln or Waverly or Firth or Davie, it didn't matter. You got to vote for 2 board members.
Yes.
But then
With redistricting.
with redistricting and with this new law that was passed, Lincoln and Waverly and Bennett were removed from representation on the board. Lincoln Electric System is one of NPPD's largest customers.
Yes.
But the law now requires that the utility has to get 51% of its electricity from NPPD in order for its ratepayers to have a vote on board members.
Okay.
So even though LES buys a lot of electricity from NPPD, they don't buy 51% of their energy from us. So their meter holders, their ratepayers don't get to vote anymore.
Okay, both of those things don't make a lot of sense to me. Where's Lincoln getting the rest of his electricity from? I think that's a different question for another day. I'm not sure if that's one you can answer for us. And we don't get representation anymore. Those are both questions that are troubling to me. I'm not sure if I know the answers to.
Well, and a lot of people have those same questions about why was Lincoln removed on the 51% rule, because it is our third or fourth largest customer.
Yes.
And Lincoln has participation contracts with us, so a lot of people are familiar with Sheldon Station at Hallam.
Yes.
It's a 220 megawatt coal-fired plant.
Yes, I want to talk about that in a minute. Yes.
And Lincoln has a contract to buy power from that plant for as long as it is in operation. So that's a very good arrangement for NPPD. You know, from time to time you have to make improvements. You have
Yes.
to upgrade the pollution controls and emission controls.
I understand that, and I want to ask you questions about that. Is now a good time, or would you like to?
Sure.
I grew up in a place called Kentucky, a coal mining state.
Yes.
We are, what we mine pales in comparison to what Nebraska uses to generate electricity. If you go out to the Haymarket District, you'll see coal trains rolling through every few minutes.
That's right.
And the federal government just changed some of the regulations and rules. How does that affect me as a consumer of electricity and you as a board member for NPPD?
Well, I think it's one of the biggest problems or questions facing us in the next 6 years. The Clean Air Act, the EPA just announced new rules.
Yes, that's what I'm asking about.
To affect.
That was also confusing to me.
Yeah, so these are called 111D rules.
Yes.
And they're going to control emissions coming from power plants that are already in existence.
Okay.
Now, the EPA has already issued new rules under the Clean Air Act for new coal-fired plants. They've also done new rules on transportation and car emissions. So this is kind of one of the last sectors to be addressed under Clean Air Act updates. And what the proposed rule does, we've got probably a year before the final details are released. But what it does is affect that we're going to have a 30% reduction in the tons of carbon that are produced in the state from existing power plants.
I understand.
And that would also include natural gas plants.
30% reduction.
30% reduction.
New plants will already be under the existing rules, but sometimes the older existing plants, they shut down for maintenance or cleaning or just general upkeep. Will the rules affect that? Will there be a change there? If I shut down for a year, I'm more familiar with people who shut down the nuclear plants than the coal-fired plants. But where do they draw the line between old construction and new construction? I'm worried that the rules that we have to follow will be more difficult for Nebraska.
Well, I know a lot of people have, you know, anytime there's a
That
new
was a
rule
horrible question, by the
proposed,
way.
people are, yeah.
It wasn't a very good question. Thank you for your patience with me on that one.
Oh, I think everybody feels, you know, when there are new rules, there's a lot of uncertainty and some concern about how it's going to affect us, what's it going to do to our rates, and the reliability of our power. Because when it comes to electricity, you know, the most important thing to most people is I want the lights to come on when I turn the switch.
Yes.
So.
And it consistently does that. And the price I pay is quite low. I'm really pleased with the rates I'm paying now. Will this need for 30% reduction in carbon emissions affect my rates?
Well, there are a lot of different opinions about that, but in my opinion, we're very well positioned in Nebraska to adjust to these new rates. Omaha Public Power District, OPPD, has already voluntarily moved to a pretty aggressive level of renewable energy in their generation mix. When all their projects come online, they'll be at about 30% wind power.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
It's just awesome. And LES has likewise really taken a very progressive stance at voluntarily reducing their reliance on coal. They have done a lot with net metering to increase residential use of solar panels.
Yes.
They have added a lot in terms of their purchase power that comes from wind. And they're also upgrading their energy efficiency programs. So, you know, that requires less generation by coal as well. NPPD is not in a bad position, but we have not moved forward as steadily. We've kind of been lagging behind.
It's a big state.
It's a big state.
91 counties.
Yeah. And there are a lot of our wholesale customers, rural customers, who really have had a lot of concerns about adding more wind power. They feel it's too expensive, it's not reliable, you know, you can't make the wind blow when it doesn't want to, so you don't control the generation. So they have been discouraging NPPD from advancing in terms of buying more wind power. And we have listened to them.
You represent them.
Well, now with these new rules, it's time to really take another hard look at whether that's our best path forward. And we certainly have run a lot of scenarios.
Yes.
But I think that there are a lot of wind power projects around the state that are under development now, and that we could, really pretty quickly enter into agreements with to bring them online and help meet that goal. And the prices right now for wind are at historic lows.
That's great.
They are very competitive with our cheapest traditional generation. And so I'm very enthusiastic about bringing more of that on now. One of the traditional arguments about bringing wind in, since it's not dispatchable, you can't make it go when you need it, is now not the concern it used to be, because we operate in an 8-state power pool.
Okay.
So there's one control office for all 8 states. And when wind doesn't blow here, we can go to a number of power plants throughout that 8-state region, bring them up and down to balance wind power. So that larger footprint for our balancing authority really makes wind less problematic to have online in a larger percentage.
What you're saying is there's a backup available in case the wind doesn't blow.
That's the point. That's right.
We've covered a lot of information, and I want to back up a bit because I got excited about what you were saying. You're a member of the board. What do you do? What is your day-to-day influence on the board? I'd like to know that. And how do citizens get in contact with you? What do I do to help you work toward this 30%? How do I do that? Who do you represent? Who are your constituents?
Well, I really feel the people who elect me are my constituents. And while we have, contractual relationships with other utilities to deliver power, we share the same constituents. And it's the voter, it's the meter holder, it's the homeowner or the business owner that buys power from us, who is the person I'm accountable to. That's who's left paying the bills if we don't do a good job. So.
And you said with redistricting, I live in the heart of the city of Lincoln. I live in the near south. So I won't get a chance to vote for you. I won't say who are you responsible to. That's not the way I want to phrase it, because I think you probably would listen to me if I had a question. But who are your voting constituents?
Well,
what communities?
Voters in all of Seward County, about a third of Saunders County, including Wahoo, all of rural Lancaster County.
Okay.
So
it's kind of a sea around Lancaster.
It's a sea around Lincoln.
Yes.
Yeah, and then parts of Cass County, Plattsmouth.
Okay, that helps. That was a little confusing to me. Yeah, so it's just basically the Lincoln metro area has been removed from your district.
Right, it's like a donut.
A little donut.
It's a donut.
Yeah, donuts. I'm sorry. So what is? I'll go back to that question about wind. And how we have transmission agreements with 8 other states.
Right.
I'm concerned about infrastructure at that point.
Okay.
Power lines and transmission. Is that something that NPPD addresses? Is that something you deal with?
Well, and we own probably more miles of high voltage power lines in the state than anybody else. And right now we're looking at building a new 180-mile line from just west of North Platte up to Cherry County.
Yes.
And then across to Norfolk, so that we'll have more reliability, more capacity, and also the ability to bring on more wind, because those areas along the northern tier of the state are very good areas to build wind farms.
You're getting at the heart of my question. You said that some of your constituents are concerned about the reliability of wind, but I would feel that we just need to bring more wind online. It sounds like you and the NPP are in, one more P. You and the district are planning for that. Is that fair to say?
It's fair, yes, because you have to look at what the long-term trends are.
Yes.
And in the 12 years that I have been on the board, we've had a steady progression toward cleaner air rules
Yes.
from the federal government, greater concern about climate change. As a matter of fact, the last rural poll that the university did showed that around 65% of all Nebraskans are convinced that climate change is real,
Yes.
and that it's got something to do with human behavior. It's got something to
Yes.
do with our cars and our power plants and
our
air
carbon emissions
conditioning.
and our,
That's
yes.
right.
The way we-
And it's something we need to start addressing.
I've seen several movements in Lincoln and around the community too. Lincoln itself has a Cleaner, Greener Lincoln movement.
Yes.
And there's a Power Lincoln Locally movement. And there are all kinds of other movements that are across the state where people understand the importance
That's
of
right.
changing the way we generate energy and use it.
Well, and when I go door to door, because during the primary, my husband and I went out and met a lot of people in
Yes.
this four-county area, and it came up a lot. And it really didn't matter, you know, young or old, male or female, who I was talking to. Like, what do you think about climate change?
Yes.
Well, I'm maybe not completely sure that it's real, but I sure see things changing. And the wind power makes sense to me regardless, because it creates local jobs.
Yes.
It provides a new source of property tax revenue that is significant
It is.
for local school districts and other subdivisions of government. And you know, you start to see some of these jobs coming back to small towns. You get young families back. It's real economic development
I agree.
that's
And
homegrown.
that addresses that issue of out-migration we've been talking about for years.
Yes.
So you've been doing the board work, you've been representing us as citizens, you've been a good steward for 12 years, and you want to continue. Why? It sounds like you're not tired yet, but do you have something planned?
Well, I think with the release of the proposed clean air rules,
Yes.
I really want to be there to be a part of that. I think we have an opportunity to develop a statewide energy plan that will create more jobs, bring real economic development to the state, you know, across the state, and leave us with a better set of natural resources, a better natural environment. I want to be a part of that.
I like the idea of a statewide plan. Long-term. I like long-term planning. I'm a big fan of that.
Are you?
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of am too.
And I mentioned it earlier to someone else. There used to be an old 70s television commercial where the auto mechanic was explaining that you brought your car in for repairs. If you just done maintenance in the first place, if you can pay me now or you can pay me later. You can pay me to do the maintenance, or pay me to plan ahead, or you can pay me later for the disaster. Those are your options. I'd much rather pay now and plan ahead.
That's right.
Let's do some planning. So you've done 12 years. You seek another term. Why should someone?
Why am I the best candidate this
I do want to
time?
say that. I don't want to say it like that, but why should we invest in you? Why are you the best candidate for this job?
Well, I think first of all, Benny, it's my experience.
Okay.
I have been a public servant in one way or another for almost 30 years. I served on the Southeast Community College Board for 2 terms, representing Southeast Nebraska, and gained a tremendous amount of experience in good governance and watching over public budgets and public money. I served in both the Ben Nelson and Mike Johans administrations.
Work for both sides of the aisle, both types of government.
That's right.
Yes.
Running a multi-million-dollar program, the Nebraska Environmental Trust.
Yes, familiar with that.
And so really a lot of experience about managing public budgets and the fiduciary side of good government, as well as understanding open government, public trust, open meetings laws,
Yes.
those sorts of things. So I think
There are lots of places to get tripped up there, and the experience is important.
experience is important. My work ethic, I'll put that up against anybody's. We meet 2 days a week in Columbus. 2 days a month, I'm sorry.
That was, okay, thank you, that helps a little bit. That 2 days a week is a lot, but 2 days a month is
We
still.
have a formal board meeting 2 days a month.
Okay,
But it's about a 3-day-a-week job. For example, tomorrow I'm going out to western Nebraska to meet with some landowners who are in the path of the proposed transmission
new
line.
transmission line.
Thursday I'm going to a dedication of a new wind farm. Friday we have a meeting with the administrators of our rural customers, those wholesale distributors we
Yes.
talked about. It turns out to be 2 or 3 days a week.
Okay, what you're saying is, you said 2 board meetings, 2 official meetings a month.
2 days, that's right.
Yeah. The rest of the time you're working on the road to do other things, and I'm sure you're fielding phone calls
Well, and the reading.
and the reading. So it's
The
really,
reading.
it's more, it sounds like more of a full-time job than many full-time jobs.
Well, you know, it is, it's a lot more than I thought it would be
Yeah.
when I started 12 years ago. But I find, you know, it's fascinating. It's really challenging and interesting. Electricity is so important to us.
It is.
And so,
We're filming on Father's Day, and in Lincoln last night the power went off during the storm.
right.
And I'm sure that you, like, for me, is you got up, you walked out of the room, walked into the other room, hit the light switch, and it didn't work.
Right.
Well, I know it didn't work. The power's off. So I walked to the next room, I hit the light switch again. It's become so routine. It's become so much of a part of our everyday life that we forget about what goes into getting it there every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I thank you for what you're doing to do that.
Well, thank you. And really, you know, we've got to give credit to the employees of NPPD. There are about 2,000 men and women across the state who work for NPPD.
Wow.
And for example, last night there was a tornado out around Axtell. So we had people out in the middle of the night trying to restore power.
Those are things that we as consumers in our homes don't think about.
Yeah, and I'm really impressed with the
Yeah.
quality of employees we have. We don't really have slackers. We have people who take their jobs seriously and have a tremendous amount of pride in serving the state. So that's really one of the fun things about
Thank you.
about this
As a
job.
board member, I'm sure you're partially responsible for retaining that staff and keeping quality people there. So as a candidate and a potential board member in the future, what are some of your personal goals that you want to see? We talked about the EPA regulations, and we talked about new transmission lines. Is there something that you're not doing you hope to get kick-started in the near future?
Well, you may have heard something about production tax credits.
I didn't understand it, but I did hear it. Yeah.
It was a federal tax incentive to help build more wind farms. It expired last year in December 31st.
Yes.
And there are several projects in the state right now that still have until the end of the year to get started and take advantage of those credits.
Okay.
So right now, my focus is very intently on how can we get those projects up and running before they lose the tax credits. Because with the tax credits, the price of that power is about the low 20s per megawatt hour. Without the tax credits, we go up to about low 40s.
Nearly doubles.
Nearly doubles. Well, nobody wants to pay more for their electricity than they have to.
No.
So this price is extremely competitive. It's a very, very good price. And I think when you look at how long these investments last, you know, this is a 20-year decision
Yes.
we're making, right?
Yes.
So that's my immediate focus. Then beyond that, I think the establishment of a statewide energy plan
You mentioned that earlier. Yes. Thank
would
you.
be a high priority. We know that technology is changing and the world around us is changing, and we need to plan very wisely. You mentioned this confusion with, well, there's LES and OPPD and NPPD, and it's all kind of,
It's alphabet soup.
it was a system that evolved kind of voluntarily, where the law was passed that everybody's going to be public power now. So the different utilities went together and formed new utilities that were publicly run with elected boards. Well, it was kind of spontaneously evolved rather than a system. So under that kind of circumstance, it's very important that we all work together in our planning.
Yes.
In a systematic way. I'm not trying to imply that it's a broken system.
But
I'm just saying that the planning becomes even
which
more
is
important.
which goes into the work smarter rather than work harder category.
There you
Yes.
go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't
so,
duplicate if you don't have to.
Yeah. The other thing I want to mention
Yes, please.
is that, you know, in 1991, I persuaded then Senator Jim Cuddeback to bring a law to the legislature to mandate energy efficiency programs, so that your public utilities would be required to help you make your home or business more efficient.
Yes.
Now, there's always a cost to those programs, so the cost of a kilowatt hour may go up by implementing energy efficiency programs, but if it's done well and the analysis is right,
It's,
your bill goes down.
yeah, it's revenue neutral.
Well, it actually saves you money.
Oh, it's not. It's actually,
yeah, your bill will go down.
I was expecting revenue neutral, but no, it's actually going down.
It actually goes down.
It'd be a higher wattage rate, but a lower usage rate.
Right.
No, something like, yes.
That's it. It's a slightly higher unit rate, but
But I
a much
use-
lower usage rate.
Yes, I
so
use fewer
everybody
units.
saves money. The Clean Air Act rules that are proposed right now really encourage more energy efficiency. And there are ways that have been pioneered around the country where you can actually, you know, if you're going to add insulation, there's a cost.
Yes.
But you can actually finance that and pay it off through your utility bill. It's called on-bill pay. So
It makes it very makes it much less painless. It's not unpainful, but it's much less painful.
yeah, it's almost pain-free. So your
Yes.
utility bill doesn't go up. You don't have a new expense to add to your monthly budget.
And then your units of usage actually go down with better insulation, so it's kind of a win-win-win.
It really is a win-win-win, and that's another source of really good jobs because the people who do those,
Yes.
you know, implement those
Yeah.
practices.
That's exciting. We have a few
are
minutes
still-
left. I want to ask you about your candidacy for re-election to continue to represent Nebraskans. I asked a lot of questions, and I'm still have a lot more I'm going to ask you. But if somebody who's watching the show wants to get in touch with you or ask you questions, how can they do that? Do you have a website or a phone number?
I've got a website, I've got Facebook. The website is maryharding4nppd.com. Pretty straightforward.
Yes, it is pretty straightforward.
And also, my phone and email are listed on the NPPD website. If you go to nppd.com, it has an About Us page, and there's Board of Directors. You click on that, there I am. So
can
there's
contact
the
you through
phone
that.
number, the email. My email is mary4nppd@gmail.com. So